Welcome back to Brick Wall Breakdowns. I'm Max Dean. You can find me on Twitter at @TheMaxDean, and I'm here with Kyron Samuels, our offensive line expert and insider at Defiant Takes Football. You can find him at Kyron Samuels, and he is well versed in offensive line play after having played in Division One at Jacksonville State and also earning all AFL honors at the offensive line position. So, Kyron, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing really good. So really excited to get into this one. He's probably my second favorite offensive lineman in this class in general. So I was happy to be a little bit early on him than a lot of people, but this is one of my guys right here. So I'm going to beat the table hard for this guy.
I get it. So we are back with another SEC offensive lineman. We're looking at Darnell Wright, the right tackle from Tennessee. So, he's easy to love. I watched one game. Maybe it puts him on a high pedestal, but against Alabama, he played very, very well. And at the very least, that tells you what he can be in the NFL. And so he's a right tackle who has a lot of refinement in his footwork, a lot of refinement in his handwork. So he's just ready to go. He's a day one player for sure. He projects as a right tackle primarily because he's a good athlete. He's pretty big. Let me hit my banners here before I get ahead of myself. But he's pretty big and he has decent athleticism, but he doesn't have great change of direction. So I think that teams might be concerned about putting him out on that left side island against some of those pass rushers. But the footwork is really good. It's really clean. It's like the first thing you see. It's like the first three plays against Alabama. It's just so crisp. So, at 6'5", 333, he has plenty of size as a tackle. What jumps off the tape for you before we get into individual plays here?
Well, he's just super, super consistent, right? Everything that you just mentioned with his feet, with his hand placement, he switches up his punch selection a lot. He switches up his stance and his sets a lot. He does some pretty high level advanced stuff for being a guy that hasn't played football more than pro football at least. I mean, he's doing some really advanced stuff here. He's doing some stuff you see from like veterans, Pro Bowlers, all pro type guys. And I picked a couple clips that kind of highlight some of those things with like sneaky hand placement, changing up his stuff. So I really like that about him. And then he has a mean streak as well. I think he developed that over the course of his career. He wasn't always the most aggressive. He wasn't always a finisher. And I think that's something that people kind of had questions about in the run game. And then kind of playing in that offensive system in Tennessee doesn't really lend to necessarily being too aggressive and having those plays where he can really show it off. But I think that's a mentality more than it is like anything, a skill or something that you like can develop or be born with. So I think he should be able to keep honing in and developing that over the course of his NFL career. But I think he did a great job at the Senior Bowl. We got a chance to see him up close and personal. And he kind of dispelled a little bit of those concerns because he was very, very aggressive and very, very tough and rugged in those inside run pods. And he did a lot of good stuff in those. So those are the things that jump out to me about the kid. I think he's going to be one of those guys that's a plug and play right tackle from day one. And I think he'll be a really good player for a long time. I think he's going to go a lot higher than people maybe have been projecting him to go. I think you can see him sneak into the mid to late first round easily here because there's so many teams that need a right tackle right now. So really excited about this one.
It's interesting. So as far as the aggressiveness, I think I threw a play in there. I'm not sure if it made it into the final cut here where, he just takes out a defensive lineman that wasn't even his responsibility just because he got too close to him. He didn't have a man, so he just put him on his butt. I don't think it's here, but you definitely see that, in the way that he plays. And, he's unique because he is a right tackle whose strength is pass protection, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of time we associate that with the other side. But I really do think I think he could be a guy who you can slide into the left side in if necessary.
Yeah.
I understand why he's projected as a right tackle, but I think the technique is down, and I think that he could manage. I think if you really wanted to put him on the left side, you could probably get away with it, to be perfectly honest. So let's take a look at here some of the tape and see what we see.
All right. This is the game that everybody's going to go back and when they're doing these breakdowns and they're going back and scouting and you see he's going up against top tier NFL talent. He's going up against a guy that's going to be a top 5 pick, no brainer here. And Will Anderson, one of the best college defenders we've ever seen. And he rendered him, I won't say ineffective, but he had a hell of a game against Will Anderson, and Will Anderson didn't get a ton going in this game. So you just see a lot of the consistency with this his sets and how crisp and smooth he is. It just everything looks effortless, and that's like almost like a bad, like people talk about that like it's a bad thing sometimes. Like sometimes they get like a lazy tag, or they get like a he's not very aggressive, or he doesn't play with effort, snap the whistle. I just think this dude's just so smooth. He's so refined. This is what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look this easy when you have this talent and you're 6'5", 333 pounds. So just look how smooth his set is. Look where his hands are. He's already flashing his hand. Like, this is some of the stuff that I'm talking about when I said he is very advanced for being a college kid. You don't see this from a bunch of college kids, but throwing that hand up there, that stuns defenders. You see, Will Anderson now has to counteract that. So he's already off balance. He's already losing a ton of his strength and his leverage because he's trying to counteract the punch. And then he flashes his right hand. He refits his left hand. I mean, this is some pretty high level advanced stuff here that we're seeing. And then once he gets his hands on, he's really, really good at anchoring and protecting the integrity of the pocket. And you see him really just shut down Will Anderson. And like I said, this is one of the best players we've ever seen at the college level, and he's doing this to him. So really, really high level advanced stuff from Darnell right here.
So I'm going to play this in full speed here in a second, but look how many steps he has to take in his set before Anderson comes at him. So he's trying to hit outside, right, to force him to put all his momentum, basically backing up, shuffling to the right, and then come head on at him when his balance is, it's not ideally prepared to take on the rush straight on. But there's no problem. So when I play this at full speed, you're going to see, slide, and then boom, basically just stonewalls him. And that's not something that Anderson is used to at all playing in college. So here I'm just going to play it at full speed. He just goes nowhere.
And Will Anderson is one of the best, speed to power rushers in college football. So if you can handle this from Will Anderson, man, sky's the limit for a guy. And just look how refined his set, like his stance is. People don't understand how important stances are, splits are. It's just what it's supposed to look like. When you have a guy that's so refined in his technique and is such a technician, you can go a long way with it because he's not the greatest athlete, like you said at the beginning, but he gets, I don't want to say gets away with it, but he more than overachieves for his natural ability, maybe, with how refined and smooth that he is. And I'll talk about this really quick. Jeff Stoutland, during the NFL Combine, he ran the NFL Combine drills. And one guy that he absolutely raved about every time he went was Darnell Wright, because he loves the technicians. He loves the guys that are explosive out of their sets. They have good placement and punch timing. He loved Darnell Wright every single rep. And he wasn't like that with everybody, because a lot of guys, he was sitting there, chewing their butts, but Darnell Wright got applause every time. So when the GOAT of offensive line coaching is telling you you're doing something right, you're probably really refined and ahead of the curve here.
Well, so this is funny to me because he ran like a 5:01:40, right? And because he actually has some decent straight line speed, but I don't think he did any of the agility drills, if I'm not mistaken. And that makes sense because honestly, I don't think it would help him out at all, because we'll see it here, especially in some of the run plays in a minute. The footwork is really good. Some of the straight line speed is pretty solid, especially for a 333 pounder, but the change of direction leaves, I don't want to say something to be desired. It's just not his strength, right? It's just not how he wins. So don't put it on, don't put those numbers down if you can be a first round pick without it. So I think it's smart here. But here's another play. So this is one where this is just, basically recovery and counter. It's an ability to change, how he's protecting, even if he almost gets beat. So I'm going to let you take it from here.
Yeah. Another guy rep against a faster guy here. So you got Will Anderson, who's he's big, fast, and strong. He has it all. But this guy's more of a speed rusher, so you get a little bit of a different dynamic here when you're going against him. But I put this one in there because it was high level from the help. He's so confident in his sets and his skill set that he stayed in and he helped a lot more. I don't know if you can see. He gets a little bit right here. He gets a little sneaky shoulder, a little push here on Byron Young here on the inside. And look at his feet. Look at where his right hand is. Look at his base. Everything is still where it's supposed to be. A very, very high level, very, very impressive technique here, because he's still wide in the pocket. He's still keeping the integrity of the pocket while helping out and still maintaining his technique. So another thing, and then once he gets his hand on, you see he gets that right hand on, and boom, the left hand, he doesn't just place it, right? It's where it's supposed to be.
Swats it.
Right. Only thing I would have loved and made it a perfect rep is if he could have got under that armpit, You see how he refits into the armpit off to the second motion?
Yeah.
If he gets it on that first one, that extra step will probably allow him to shut it down a little bit sooner. But still, I have zero complaints here. This is high-level offensive line play. This is very good technique, and this is where you see some of the finish and the mean streak. He finishes through the whistle, man.
Yeah. Yep. And all right. So, like you said, a lot of good things. So, one of the things that's really a big deal if you see this on either offensive line or defensive line play is if you see independent use of hands, especially like if you're moving and then you have one hand doing one thing, especially with a secondary player, and then another hand doing another thing. That's really challenging and it's hard for guys to learn. So if you don't see it in college, it's not a kind of guarantee that you're going to see it uh, quickly in the NFL. And so
Right.
his ability to use his left hand on the defensive tackle and then right hand on the edge defender. So he does get that long arm to the chest, but he swats at it and
Mm-hmm.
then again gets the hand underneath the shoulder, the underneath the armpit there. And then
Right.
even though he's coming inside and he actually has a decent trajectory to the quarterback, his ability to turn and then smash him into the ground instead of letting him get a little hit on
Yeah.
Hooker, even though the ball's out.
So
Nice
it's
play.
just turn it into a run play. That's what every offensive lineman is taught. Once he starts to disengage, anytime a defensive lineman is starting to disengage, you turn it into a run block at that point. You flip your hips and you start to get aggressive and you finish. And I'm telling you, like that's one of the more impressive reps I've seen from a college guy in such a long time. Because not like I said, I keep going back to the technique, but not many guys are able to just be so technically proficient and have some of that mean streak and switch up the sets, switch up the hand flashes. He's just so far advanced. I just can't believe that not more people were talking about this guy. He didn't get more recognition in college because it's all on tape and it's not just this game. He's been doing this for a while. So I was surprised to see not many people high on him up until very recently.
Yeah, I think it's just the right side, left side bias.
Right.
Usually the most gifted offensive linemen play left side in college. And it's, if you're talking about being a first round pick, like how often do we see right tackles go straight from how often do we see college right tackles get taken in the first round? It's not super often. It usually only happens when there's offensive lines that have like just incredible depth.
Right.
You got first round picks at left and right side. So I think that probably played into it to some degree. But all right, next year.
Okay. So you get a little bit of a different look here. We've been seeing 4-man fronts. We're getting some wide nines. You got Will Anderson playing a wide nine in a couple of the early clips, and then you get a nice little 3-man front here where you get some head up, you get some 4-out stuff here. So it just changes like the dynamic, like I said, with the sets, the urgency, the hand placement. Everything is a little bit quicker. It's a little bit more on you faster, and I think he just does a really good job of adjusting. He's always been technically proficient, but just having that wherewithal. Understanding leverage, understanding depth, understanding the fronts, all that plays into how you counteract that with your technique and your balance. And I think he does a great job of that on this rep here. You just see him like they go a half, looks like they're going a half slide, and then he's manning on Will Anderson. Which, listen, that in and of itself tells you how much they trusted and believed in him. Because if you're going to man up a guy with the best player in the country, essentially, this is what most people to believe the best player in the country. This was the biggest matchup one of the biggest matchups of the year. And you're letting him go man on while you're sliding the rest of the line. It shows how much you believe in him and how much you trust him. But once he gets his hands on here, I think this is one of the reps where it shows some of his play strength, where you get to really, really see it, and you get to see his lower body strength as well because of how well he anchors here. So you can go ahead and let it play just full through here. It just shows how strong this kid really is. I mean, he catches Will Anderson and he doesn't go anywhere.
It shows the footwork from a completely different set as well. So far we've primarily seen him kicking out to the right? But here he actually drops the left foot back.
Yeah. So it looks like this is the line.
To the left.
Right. So it looks like they're sliding the line, which is interesting. On a 3-man front, they're sliding the entire offensive line. But Will Anderson was probably locked on here. They probably made a call during the week, or maybe even during the game, where he just felt like he was having so much success, where he felt like he can go man on. But they're sliding everybody else, and they're putting him on Will Anderson on the backside. So it's pretty interesting stuff here from Tennessee. They have one of the most unorthodox offenses to watch from the college football level, but really, really good stuff here from Darnell Wright.
All right.
But man, I'm talking about strength. Oh, it's just beautiful to watch, even if it's against my team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was like, I knew you'd be impressed if he played well against Alabama too. And that's the first game I watched because I just had a feeling, that was going to be what I needed to see. All right.
Yep.
So here we have run play where I think it's intended to be a combo block, but
Mm-hmm.
all right.
Yeah, he disappears. 76 misses his guy, but I just wanted to show this rep because you see some of his lateral ability and his ability to get up to the second level. At 76, this is Will Anderson, right? So Will Anderson is one of the best players in the country. He makes stuff like this happen. But at 76 takes care of his job and he gets on his guy right here, Will Anderson. Look at that hole that would be there in between 87, 76, and 58. Will Anderson, Darnell Wright is doing a great job of getting up to the second level. And that's a fast guy. Lawson is really one of the fastest guys on the Alabama team, and he's a really good shedder. He's very difficult to get hands on. But I just showed this you can see some of his ability to get up to the second level, and you see how he chips off on Lawson and gets up to toe on the next level. So he has very, very good acumen when he's on the second level. He has his eyes in the right place. Look at his technique. His outside arm and his outside leg is still free. So if anything like the toe coming over the top happens, he can go spill and get that. If toe were to go underneath, he's in a position where he can clamp it off and fight back through 32 and Lawson there. So you see a little bit of even the high level stuff in his technical ability, even on a play like this.
All right. And I'll play through, and then we have, I think, one more play, which is also a run play.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where they've got him pulling across the line here. And you'll see the straight line speed, but then you'll also see that, in space, if he's going up against an agile guy, it's not necessarily the greatest matchup for him.
Right. But yeah, you see his ability to look how fast he was through the line to the line. And like you said, he's not the greatest in space. He didn't have a huge block. He didn't just dominate it, right? But he got in between the guy and he sprung the play. So without him, look at that. Obviously, 53 could be a little bit better right there and not get displaced right there. But if he doesn't get displaced right there, that might be out the gate. So great job by Darnell right here. He's inside out because if you're going to miss, you don't want to miss, right? But you've always been taught you want to go inside out when you're pulling because you don't want to get beat across your face back into all the mess and all the clutter from the interior of the offensive line and the linebackers. You want to go inside out. So if he does get around you, he has to go all the way outside, and he's not going to be able to make the play on the running back there. So great job being inside out. Great vertical, just aggressive and ability to get downhill fast. Is going to make you see, that's why he gets the block because he didn't get his hands on. He didn't have a great explosion through, but the fact that he got there so fast and closed the distance so fast, it makes the linebacker make a decision. And Toto doesn't want to go through a guy that's 6'5", 330 pounds, so he chooses to go outside. So a little bit of the run blocking stuff here. I think you'll get to see a little bit better run blocking from him at the next level once he gets in a pro-style offense and he can use some of his strength and his downhill ability more, just straight power blocking, down blocks, back blocks, and stuff like that. But you can see a little bit of the run stuff here. So I think people are going to fall in love with the pass blocking, but I think he's a more than capable run blocker as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. So here's the question, though. Unless you can see him in practice and you just know that he's not comfortable on the left side, what is it that stops him from being a left tackle, honestly?
Probably just comfortability. They probably had enough guys at Tennessee where you're just like, hey, we have a left tackle already. He might be a little bit more agile, a little bit better in space. And Darnell's been doing this for so long. He's so good at it. We're just going to leave him here. I think that might be the case. It's just comfortability. I do see a scenario where he could be a left tackle in the NFL, but it depends on the team. But I think a great fit for him, if Tristan Wirfs is going to be going to the left side in Tampa, getting a guy like Darnell Wright to take over Tristan Wirfs' spot at right tackle at 19 would be a great pick, in my opinion. I think they go offensive line. We'll do Osiris Torrance here in the near future, but I think Osiris Torrance would be a great fit there as well. But I think his plug and play ability is definitely right tackle. Do I think he can be developed into a left tackle? Why not? He's 6'5", 333 pounds. He's really refined. He's really technical. He has really good play strength. Why not? If we're talking about guys like Skoronski, everybody's debating whether he's a tackle or not. I mean, why not give a guy like Darnell Wright a chance to play left tackle? Because I think he has that ability.
Yeah. I mean, I think the disparity between left and right tackle is less so than it was. And although we're seeing the market still move up for left tackle, the gap between the two is it's a lot smaller than it once
Yeah.
was, you know? And so
Yep.
I I have a hard time seeing why you wouldn't want to put him at left tackle unless you've already got a left tackle because it just is hard for me to believe that he can't make that transition. And yeah, like you said, is he going to be more like day one of training camp ready to play right tackle? Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't. If you need a left tackle, I don't think that you know, I don't think that should limit you. I think you should just slide him over there, get him working, get ready for him to be your left tackle in the future. I have a hard time seeing that really be an issue. So, I had kind of heard that he projects as a right tackle, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I kind of get it, but it's like we've seen guys with limited athleticism do it, and when their footwork is this good coming out,
Right.
I just don't think it's going to be an issue. I really don't. So,
Yeah. And kind
I
of
understand
closing
why you
thoughts
like
here,
him.
though. Yeah, and kind of closing thoughts here, though. I think something that might help him if he were to make that transition to left tackle is to maybe drop 10, 15 pounds. He's a big guy. He weighed in at 330 at the Senior Bowl. I can't remember what he weighed at combine. So he was probably playing at Tennessee at 340, 345. So if he can get down to 320, 315-ish maybe at most, I don't want him to lose a lot of that play strength. But if he were to drop 10, 15 pounds, if he's going to play left tackle, I think that would help him a lot with his agility in space and his ability to change direction, just having that little bit of extra weight off you. But if he's going to play right tackle, I think he's plenty fine. But we've seen guys like, I mean, Tristan Wirfs is 338 pounds, and Rashawn Slater, I think he dropped down to 315 to play left tackle. So if you're going to be playing right versus left, I think those are good comparisons right there for weight and how you want your body to be built. But I think that's a really good point, man. Like, the more I think about it, I think he does have a lot of value as a left tackle. So depends on the team, like you said, and the fit, where he goes, who he goes to. But I think he's going to be in the later first round where teams already have their left tackle or they have a pretty made offensive line already. He's just a key piece. Like I know that the Kansas City Chiefs are dying for this kid to fall to the 230 run. Like, even the Buffalo Bills, I think a Buffalo Bills will be a great landing spot for him. So those teams in the very back end that have good offensive lines already, that are already solidified and looking for that key piece to take them over the top, they're praying this kid falls down there. But I don't think he's going to be able to fall in that far. I think somebody's going to snatch him up between 17 and like 24-ish. I think he's going to shock a lot of people. But he's my OT3, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I think, if we did Broderick Jones just recently, right? I think he's pretty scheme versatile. I don't think there's really anywhere that you've got to put him, right? I don't think that there's an issue. He just needs a little bit more refinement. But Darnell Wright, I'm not sure that he's, scheme dependent, but I will say that if you are a team that is a pass first team like the Bills or like the Chiefs, and you just want to throw the ball around, then if you want to get another pass protecting tackle to slide in on your right side, you already got Jawan Taylor. You want that right side covered. He is a great fit for you. So I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody go up and get him, who has a team like that, because it's it really does finish off an offensive line that is very good. And again, those first round contracts are really team friendly. So if you're already spending on the O-line, this would be the guy for you if you want to make a dominant unit. So yeah, I like him a lot. I really do.
Yep, that's all I have on him, man. I love the kid. And I think he's going to do very well, regardless of where they decide to play him. But I think he's a guy that's going to have a pretty good transition just because of those technique traits that he has, and it's just a little bit of aggression that he's been displaying when he has opportunities to. So I think Darnell Wright is going to be one of the better players in this draft after the dust settles and everybody gets in their careers and everything gets going. I think he's going to be one of the guys that people look back on like. We're surprised that he had as good of a career as he did.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it just seems like a lock that he's going to be like on the all rookie team, because just what you expect from him in year one, the ceiling for some of these guys is super high, but it's just like, it would be hard not to see him coming in and playing quite well off the bat. It just depends on what the rest of the offensive line looks like, if he'll get his due and whatnot. But all right. So that's going to do it for us today. Remember, I am at TheMaxDean on Twitter. Kyron is at Kyron Samuels. You can find Defiant Takes Football at Defiant Takes on all social media outlets. You can find all of our brick wall breakdown videos featuring offensive line film. You can also find our DTF film sessions that I do with Nick for all other positions. And we are live every Monday and Thursday, streaming to the YouTube channel as well as releasing that as podcast episodes in the feed. You can find all of our written work published at defianttakesfootball.com, and we will be back very shortly with more offensive line prospects.